Hey, I'm Tim and welcome to Tim's Saying. In this episode, we'll dive into the impact comparison can have on our confidence and personal growth. The title of this episode is How to Break Free from Comparison. We'll explore why comparing ourselves to others is a distraction. It kills joy. It disrupts progress. I'll also share some practical strategies and practical tips on how to break free from this trap, including setting boundaries, identifying your personal values, and avoiding the harmful negative effects of social media. I hope that you leave this episode today with things that you can apply and things that you can do in your life and things that would help you embrace your own unique journey. First, let's explore the danger of comparison. It is a confidence killer. One of the biggest confidence killers ever, full stop. Comparison is a distraction and it's a long-term risk. We all do it. We compare ourselves to others, whether it's in our career, relationships, things that we own, material things, or physical appearance. Comparison can easily consume us. It really makes us feel unqualified, inadequate, and it causes and creates stress. Over time, comparison is one of the biggest factors that absolutely destroys our self-esteem and motivation. Comparison pulls us away from our own personal goals and it pushes us to live by someone else's standards. If they do it, then I should do it like that too. If they achieve that, then I will achieve that too by doing what they did. Comparison slows personal growth. When we compare, we stop focusing on our own growth because we ending up fixing our eyes on what other people are doing, what other people are achieving, the success of others, or what they portray as success. Instead of appreciating where we are in our journey, we start trying to measure up all of these expectations of others. We get so stuck sometimes in a loop of, I'm not good enough. I wish I had that. I wish I didn't have this, because we're looking outward instead of inward. Let me tell you some of comparison's enemies, right? This just blows my mind when I was preparing this. Comparison is the enemy of joy. Comparison makes it so much harder to celebrate our own achievements. It makes it so much more difficult to find joy in the present, to find joy in the little things. There's a book that I'd recommend. It's called Joyful. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes. And it talks about how to find joy in the little things, whether the cup that you're using, whether the car that you have, no matter how beaten it is, finding joy in the little things. The moment that you start comparing what you have, the moment that you start comparing where you are at to other people's journey and other people's things, it takes away the joy in your life. Next, comparison is the enemy of contentment. Many of these things will overlap, but comparing ourselves to others just causes dissatisfaction with what we have, even if what we have is plenty. I want to say that. Let's say you have great things that actually people compare themselves to what you have and where you're at. But because there is no contentment, because you ending up jumping in this comparison cycle, it takes away and affects our contentment of the things that we have, the roles, the positions that we have, the people that we have in our lives. Comparison is the enemy of contentment. Next, comparison is the enemy of creativity, fear of judgment, fear of maybe this is not good enough. It stops us from thinking outside the box, and it stops us from really pursuing the original ideas that you may have. Maybe you wanted to create something and then somebody has created something else quite similar to that and you perceive it to be better. It stops you off your track. Your brain goes, yeah, don't do that. Don't pursue that. Just come up with a new idea. That's what comparison does. What else does it do? Comparison is the enemy of focus. It distracts us from our goals, causing us to lose sight of what really matters today. What really matters in my future? and what I really value. It distracts us from all of that. Comparison is also the enemy of self-esteem. Constantly measuring ourselves against others, it hits our confidence hard. It kills and destroys our confidence. And lastly, comparison is the enemy of gratitude. We become less thankful, or we stop being thankful for the things that we have because we are so focused on others. We lose that ability to be grateful for what we've already achieved. I know I'm starting this episode slightly different, and I don't want you to feel discouraged. I just want to tell you, and I want to really frame what comparison does. Because I think for some people listening to this, you need to know what comparison is doing because you've been so blind from it. You've been so consumed by comparison that it becomes your blind spot. And before we go into what we can do and some actionable steps on how to break free from comparison, I just want to briefly tell you the results of comparison. 1, low self-worth. Believing your value is defined by external measures. Believing that your value is based on other people's opinions and how other people have set standards in their business, in their careers, and their physical appearance. And basing your value on that, it affects, if it hasn't already, it is affecting it. You just don't see it yet. It affects your self-worth. It brings it way low. It kills it. What else is a result of comparison? Stress and anxiety. That mental fatigue, that feeling of being so tired mentally because you're always trying to measure up to something or someone. Emotional burnout. It's that ongoing toll of trying to be someone else that you're not. Don't be like someone else. Maybe that's an encouragement or a challenge to someone listening today. You do you. I'm sure you've heard that said a number of times, but I feel like that really needs to hit home today. You do you. Don't compare. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to be what your parents said you should be. Don't try to be what your old boss said you're going to be or what you are. Focus on what you really value and be you. Another result of comparison is distorted perceptions. We lose sight of our growth and we fixate on what others are doing. I ride a motorcycle and they talk about fixation a lot, and I've learned this a hard way a number of times. When you fixate your sight on something, let's say a wall, a hard wall on the road, you will hit that wall. Fixate your eyes on where you want to go, on where you're going and what you want to achieve, what you want to become, and watch what that does to that struggle and the challenge of comparing yourself to others. It minimizes it, it takes it out of your vision, it moves it to the side, and then ultimately it creates no room for it. One more result of comparison is our dependence on validation, seeking approval instead of trusting ourselves. I don't think I need to expand on that anymore. Next, fractured relationships, broken relationships. Because when you compare, envy and jealousy, it can create distance between people. They can really create this gap between your friends, your family. Your relationships become affected. And lastly, the result of comparison, missed opportunities. Yeah, if you're listening to this, I'm sure all of us have missed an opportunity because we ended up comparing ourselves to others. We ended up comparing ourselves to what we perceive to be the standard or the reality because we've seen other people do it. Therefore, we start focusing on that, and then we later realize that there have been so many doors that have opened and you've missed them. Wasting time on comparison means we miss out on real growth opportunities. Opportunities where you become something, where you learn something yourself and you achieve something. Maybe there's a character, you develop your character. Comparison robs you of those opportunities. So now we've heard the impact and the results of comparison. What can we do about it? First, set boundaries. This is the first step to breaking free from comparison. Boundaries really matter a lot because comparison often starts with that unfiltered exposure to external influences, whether that's social media, magazines, or news that you've heard, or maybe your coworker or a student in your class have got something or own something and they brag about it. You need to know where your boundaries are. Setting boundaries is that first step in taking control of what you allow into your life and into your mind. For example, you can limit your time on social media. I know you probably hear this a lot, and I don't want to demonize social media. I think it's got some good benefits, but probably got more negatives than benefits. But limit your time that you spend on it, especially on platforms that really trigger those feelings of inadequacy, those platforms that make you feel worthless or lowers your self-worth. Why not unfollow or mute some accounts that make you feel like that? How else can you set boundaries? You can create spaces, both physical space and digital space. When you create these spaces, it allows you to reflect on your own values and not the expectations of others. So challenge yourself this week to spend one day just curating your social media feed. Look at what's popping up all the time and remove anything that doesn't align with your values. Remove anything that doesn't align with your goals. Maybe unfollow or mute accounts that make you feel less confident. Just want to spend a few more minutes on this topic of social media. It's like a comparison minefield. You know that really, really old game on Windows called Minesweeper? To this day, I still don't know how it works. I don't know if it's like Sudoku. I don't know how it works. But anyways, I used to hate it when I was a kid, when I was maybe 7 years old, 6 years old, and I'd just be clicking buttons, clicking different tiles, and there'll be a mine somewhere. But I never understood why or how. What's the pattern? Social media is like this. It's like a comparison minefield because it often exaggerates success and it creates these unrealistic standards, and they feed you with it. They feed your eyes, your mind, your body. They feed you into this natural tendency to compare yourselves to others. Remember that curated posts that seem too good to be true, it is likely too good to be true. These curated posts, they only show the highlight reels and not the full picture. There's so many different success stories with people owning millions of pounds of assets, but it only shows you the highlight reel. It doesn't really show you the grind, the hard work, the time spent in the kitchen cooking. They only allow you to see the front porch. Studies found that excessive social media use, it correlates with negative self-perception. It increases envy, it increases jealousy, and overall, it leads to poorer mental health. So let's say you love social media, you can't live without social media, fine. But limit your social media consumption. Set time limits. Take regular breaks to avoid constant comparison triggers. Break that pattern. Break your flow and that momentum of comparing after comparing from one post to the next. Or maybe flush them out. Follow accounts that inspire you, not envy. Maybe follow at Tim Saying if you haven't followed me. Follow accounts that inspire you, not accounts that result to jealousy or envy. Choose to follow accounts whose content really aligns with your values and encourages you to grow, rather than those accounts that make you feel worthless and inadequate. As I've said, you can also curate your feed. You can unfollow accounts that's just really unhealthy. Unfollow those accounts that you know is just junk. Accounts that promote unrealistic standards of how to live life and how you should live your life, or accounts that contribute to your feelings of being worthless or being hopeless. But follow accounts that encourage positivity and inspiration. Speaking of values, you need to identify your personal values and focus on your individual growth. Values really matter because when you know what truly matters to you, comparison becomes irrelevant. It's about living according to your own values, in your own blueprint, in your own manual, in your own guide. It's about living according to the standard that you've set and not someone else's definition of success. Let me give you an encouragement from the Bible. Ephesians 2:10, it says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." This verse reminds us that we are uniquely designed for a specific purpose, that God has a great plan and a purpose for our lives. And that comparison, it only distracts us from that divine plan. So overcoming comparison is a journey. I want you to know that. It's not instant. Not because you've done all of these things that I've shared that instantly tomorrow, comparison is going to go and you're going to be so content already. However, small steps, small wins, when you build those brick by brick, you're creating a stronger foundation for your life. So overcoming comparison, it is a journey. It's a long journey. And it's not something that you have to do alone. Involve others in this process. So let people know, people that you trust, let them know your intentions to focus on your own growth and to compare yourself to others less. Let there be some accountability. Tell them, it's like, hey, if you see me look at these accounts, can you give me a nudge on the rib or something like that? Letting a trusted friend or a family member know that you're working on minimizing your social media use can really help create a support system, and it keeps you focused, it keeps you on track in your growth journey. Another thing that you can do this week is schedule a check-in with someone that you trust to discuss your progress and how you're breaking free from comparison. It'll really help you when you talk to somebody. It'll help keep you accountable and encourages you to stay focused on your own path, on your own values. I hope there's loads of things that you learned from this episode. Why don't you share your thoughts with me on social media at Tim Saying on Instagram. Let me know what strength you're celebrating today and how you plan to break free from comparison. Next week, we'll dive into the power of setting boundaries and how it can transform your life. This is a great continuation onto this topic of comparison. So don't miss that one, and I'll see you in the next episode.